Hey, in this video, I'd like to speak to you about how to stop being a nice guy. So this is a dysfunctional personality trait that a lot of guys develop through a lot of wounding and trauma and negative programming. It really cuts them off from their power. It leads them to be inauthentic, and it stops them from getting their own needs met. So I talk to a lot of guys in this space, in the self-development, spiritual space, and this is a personality trait that we see quite a lot, okay? It's very disempowering, and the more you can free yourself from this, the more you'll live the life that you're destined to live. So I want to break this down for you, explain why this comes about, how this manifests in your life, and more importantly, how you can begin to change it and really step into your power. Just a quick word, when I say nice guy, I'm not saying don't be kind, caring, compassionate and loving. They're different things altogether. A nice guy personality is toxic, right? Just because we call it a nice guy, under the hood, when we look deeper into it, we see a lot of mental and emotional dysfunction. This sort of person might be manipulative, controlling, validation seeking, approval seeking, resentful, right? But on the surface, they might express themselves as being nice. It's not real, it's not authentic, and it cuts them off from their power. So do not think I'm asking guys to be toxic, right? If anything, the nice guy persona is toxic. It's not healthy. Also, if you're a female watching this, and you maybe have a people-pleasing behavior pattern, just swap nice guy for people-pleasing. It's very, very similar. I think the root cause of them is literally the same, but I do feel like it's very, very disempowering for men to have this nice guy trait. So in order to explain this further, I'm going to use the board here just to illustrate this very, very simply. So here we've got your true self. I'm just going to put true self. This is your core. This is the essence of who you are. This is love, joy, abundance, happiness. This is all of what you were born to manifest in this world, in this lifetime, right? Here, we've got your ego or your persona. This is the face you show the world, right? Now, an emotionally healthy person will express their true self through their ego. They'll have a good, strong connection between the true self and their ego. So that means most places that they go, they're generally showing their true face. That's a popular phrase for this. They can be in different scenarios around different people. And even though they have to change a little bit, depending on if they're in a professional setting or a friendly setting or whatever, they're generally showing their true authentic self everywhere they go, right? That's healthy. That's what we're seeking. The unhealthy, neurotic, damaged person, nice guy, however, won't do this. They will usually show a different persona, a different face, depending on where they are and what they're doing and who they're around. Usually they do this because they're trying to get validation. They want people to like them. They don't want to be rejected, because deep down the wounds that they picked up, which we'll talk about, have created a lot of fear in them. So they're always trying to control through this persona and ego. And that happens because of the disconnection from their true self. If they really were connected, they wouldn't need to be manipulative. They wouldn't need to try to control or get anyone's approval. An example of this, a popular one you might have heard about, is the guy who's attracted to a girl. Instead of just telling her, I like you, I'd like to take you out, he might try to be overly nice to her or play mind games because he read somewhere that that'll get her to like him. That's all manipulation, right? These are all kind of toxic patterns and behaviors that a nice guy might do, right? And it doesn't work because it's not real, it's not authentic. It's like living on the periphery of yourself. It's powerless. Your power is here, not through changing behavior. So like I said, the authentic true self person, the healthy person, is not afraid to express who they are, their wants, needs and desires. Whereas the nice guy, the people pleaser, is afraid to do that because they're so afraid of rejection. I would also add that the healthy person has less distance between their true self and their ego. The unhealthy, nice guy, there's greater distance. And in many instances, The nice guy has actually lost touch with their true self. It's like shriveled up, right? It's always there, but because they've been so disconnected from it for so long, it's really got like, it shrank. It's become like so distant from them. They forgot who they are. They forgot who they were destined to be, right? Through no fault of their own. So the work becomes about finding more of yourself, right? Closing the distance. You're still going to have an ego, but the ego, the face you show the world, will be more in alignment with who you really are, not on who you think you need to be so people like you and girls go out with you and people want to be friends with you. That'll get you nowhere, right? You'll be miserable. So the next question is, how do we begin to close the gap? So I've got a few ideas that I'd like to share with you on this. First one is something that I've been talking a lot about recently, and I call it living at your edge or walking the path of fire. I know that sounds scary, but some of you are going to have to walk this path. And that path is stretching yourself, doing uncomfortable things, putting yourself in high pressure situations that you have little control over. This could look like doing a public speech where you don't know how it's going to go, right? People are going to judge you. Maybe asking someone out when you're terrified of doing it. Or traveling to a new country, starting a new career. You see what I mean? All of these ways where we make ourselves uncomfortable. The fake persona cannot stand in high pressure situations. Because it's not real, it collapses in them sort of situations. And what happens is, more of you has to come online, right? You have to find more of yourself when you put yourself in difficult situations, right? Consciously, I'm not saying do physically harmful, dangerous stuff, but the more you can do this, the more you can stretch yourself over time, consistently, you'll start to find more of you. This distance starts to close. The person that you really are, you start to show it to the world, right? You're no more ashamed. Generally, what happens is this space between the true self and the ego gets filled with a lot of negative emotion and trauma. So all of that stuff needs to be healed and released. You can even say that this gap between the true self and the ego is like a vacuum. This vacuum is just full of negative emotion. Probably a lot of the emotions that you experienced growing up. Fear, anger maybe, resentment, loneliness, sadness, whatever, right? That fills the space. So when it comes to you trying to get back in touch with yourself, it's so difficult because you've got so much emotional stuff there, right? And every time you try, it's just too hard. Maybe you're too anxious, you're too depressed. But like I said, if you can do this uncomfortable work of making yourself uncomfortable, emotionally vulnerable, more of you starts to come online. The distance closes, the emotions get released. You can even accelerate the emotional releasing process through things like healing work, trauma release work. Any emotional healing work can help. But I highly suggest and recommend you do things that make you uncomfortable so more of you comes online. Because like I said, that fake persona won't work when you're in a difficult situation. It'll collapse because it's not real. Only the real you will have to come through in them moments. The other thing I would suggest you do is try to connect more to your true self. This is why I talk about masculinity a lot. Obviously, I'm a male. I have a man's body. I have certain masculine characteristics that are inbuilt. So the more I learn about masculinity, the more I connect to my instincts and natural inborn characteristics, I close the gap. Okay? If you're a female, I would say connect more to your femininity, right? I think a lot of women are disconnected from that. Again, you close the distance. You come back to yourself. And that allows you to express who you truly are more of the time. Then you become less afraid of conflict. You become more comfortable expressing what you want. You become more comfortable standing up for yourself, speaking your opinion, and all of these things because you're not so afraid. Because this is love, right? When you find your own love, you don't need it from the world as much. Until eventually you don't need any of it from the world because you validate yourself. It's all about you. Essentially at this level of the journey. So I hope this video helps some of you out. Like I said, I know this is something that a lot of guys experience. It's hell, right? It's very, very difficult to even see this about yourself. And a lot of guys just don't even see it. they're so blind to it because they've lived this way probably for most of their life. The conditioning probably got dialed in very, very early. Now, this is just the only way they know themselves. But just start to pay attention to things like, do I get my needs met? Do people listen to me? Am I afraid of speaking my opinion? Am I afraid of standing up for myself? Am I trying to manipulate and control people, right? Just recognize if you've got this behavior. And then do what you can to start to close the distance between the face you show the world and who you really are. Do these exercises I've just shared. But yeah, that's all I've got for you in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helped you. But until next time, God bless.